The town of Willow Creek sat on the edge of a dry, dusty valley. Life was tough. Men worked on cattle ranches from dawn to dusk, and women kept homes running, raising children and tending small gardens. Folks were strong, but they were also stubborn. If a man fell sick, he drank whiskey. If a child had a fever, Granny Lou, the town's old healer, would burn sage leaves and whisper a prayer. That was how it had always been. Then Maggie Turner came to town. She was different, an outsider, a widow from the East. She dressed plainly and spoke softly, always carrying books and mixing strange herbs. Some folks whispered that she was a witch, while others simply ignored her. She lived on the edge of town, keeping to herself. But one hot summer, everything changed. It started with a young boy, Tommy Wells, who came down with a fever. His parents tried everything, whiskey, prayers, even a rattlesnake charm someone swore had healing powers. But Tommy only got worse. Soon, his mother fell ill, then his father, then more townsfolk. People coughed blood and burned with fever. Some got so weak they couldn't stand. Granny Lou, who had healed folks for years, finally shook her head and said, "I ain't never seen anything like this." Fear spread faster than the sickness. People locked their doors, afraid of catching it. The streets became empty, businesses closed, and for the first time, Willow Creek felt helpless. One evening, Sheriff Jed Harper, a strong, no-nonsense man, collapsed in the middle of town. His wife, Clara, panicked. She ran to Granny Lou, but the old woman only sighed. "We need Maggie Turner," Clara whispered. "No," Granny Lou snapped. "We don't need her strange ways." But Clara had no choice. With trembling hands, she rode out to Maggie's small cabin on the edge of town. Maggie opened the door before Clara could even knock. She had been expecting this. "Let me guess," Maggie said. "The sheriff." Clara nodded. Maggie grabbed her satchel and followed Clara back. When she arrived, she found Jed sweating and shaking, barely able to breathe. She checked his pulse and nodded. "It's not a curse or bad luck," she said. "It's a sickness in the water." Folks gathered around, watching. Sickness in the water. What nonsense was this? But Maggie didn't argue. Instead, she boiled water, mixed crushed willow bark for fever, wild sage for breathing, and charcoal to draw out poison. She made Clara wipe her husband's face and hands with clean cloths soaked in vinegar. "You're wasting time," Granny Lou scoffed. "The fever will run its course, like always." But the next morning, Sheriff Harper sat up in bed. He was weak but breathing better. The fever had broken. And that was when everything changed. The news spread fast. Some believed Maggie had performed magic. Others said it was luck. But more families fell sick, and Granny Lou's remedies stopped working. Desperate, the people turned to Maggie. "I won't force you," she told them. "But if you want my help, you must do as I say. Boil your water. Stop drinking from the well. Keep your hands clean. And don't use whiskey as medicine, it only makes things worse." This caused an uproar. "Whiskey's been curing men for years," one cowboy spat. "This town was fine before she got here," another shouted. But as the days passed, those who followed Maggie's advice started getting better. Those who didn't got worse. The whispers about witchcraft turned to murmurs of respect, then to desperate pleas for help. Maggie worked tirelessly, visiting homes, mixing remedies, and explaining the importance of sanitation, a concept foreign to Willow Creek. She showed them how to purify the well with lime and taught them about the tiny creatures, too small to see, that caused the sickness. One night, Tommy Wells stopped breathing. His mother screamed, shaking him. Granny Lou whispered a prayer, but it did nothing. Maggie rushed in and placed a cool cloth on his forehead. She mixed a drink with salt and honey and made him sip it. Then, she gave him a few drops of something dark and bitter, a special tonic she had made with charcoal and herbs. The town held its breath. Minutes passed. Then, Tommy coughed and took a deep breath. The fever was breaking. That night, Granny Lou sat outside, staring at the moon. Maggie joined her. The crickets chirped, a lone coyote howled in the distance, and the air was thick with the scent of dry earth and sage. "I misjudged you," Granny Lou admitted, her voice raspy. "I thought you were trying to change everything, trying to erase our traditions." "I wasn't," Maggie said softly. "I was just trying to help. Some traditions are worth keeping, but others, they can hurt us." Granny Lou sighed. "I spent my whole life healing folks the old way. But now, I see there's more to learn. The world is changing, and we have to change with it." She looked at Maggie, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "You've shown me that knowledge isn't something to be feared, but something to embrace." From that night on, Maggie was no longer an outsider. She was the town's healer, and Granny Lou, humble but not defeated, became her apprentice, eager to learn the new ways. People boiled their water. They washed their hands. They started using herbs wisely instead of relying on whiskey and luck. And most of all, they stopped fearing knowledge. They built a new well, following Maggie's instructions, ensuring a clean water supply for the future. They even started a small school, where Maggie taught reading, writing, and the importance of understanding the world around them. Willow Creek was never the same again. It was a town still rooted in its history, but open to new ideas, a place where strength and stubbornness were tempered with wisdom and a willingness to learn. And neither was Maggie Turner. She had come to Willow Creek a widow, seeking solitude, but she found a community, a purpose, and a new beginning. She had shown them that sometimes, the greatest medicine is not just found in herbs and tonics, but in understanding, compassion, and the courage to change. I hope you enjoyed the story. Kindly like, subscribe and share for more insightful stories.